The best thing you can do is to buy Bitcoin on your own and don't let anyone know that you own it. Don't get a license plate that says Bitcoin unless you want to be carjacked or kidnapped. But the best thing is to not let anyone know that you own Bitcoin. I decided to share this Bitcoin journey on YouTube and hopefully bring a lot of people along for the ride, make a lot of people rich in the process of doing it. And so this is the trade-off. And the more that it succeeds, the more valuable, obviously, all of our Bitcoin will become. And this creates a lot of risks. So I'm now more of a walking target for kidnapping. My house is obviously a target. And this is just when Bitcoin's at 19,000. You can imagine when it's at 100,000 or 500,000 or a million. So I'm going to share my setup now, in part to demonstrate that you should not come by my house, that you will not find Bitcoin there. I'll link to this Recovery Seed article as well, which is quite interesting. So I use something called multi-sig, which you may have heard about, also known as multi-signature. And all this basically means is that to make a Bitcoin transaction, I cannot do it just with a single hardware wallet. I require multiple signatures to move or spend Bitcoin. Moving Bitcoin is like spending Bitcoin. If you are storing your Bitcoin on a hardware wallet like a Trezor, and you decide you want to buy a car or a house or you want to cash in, then you can move it from your Trezor back to Coinbase and sell it for fiat US dollars, for example. So, but whenever you need to move your Bitcoin, you need to sign. So let me just review this really quickly so everyone is up to speed. If you want to receive Bitcoin, if you want to get paid in Bitcoin, if you've maybe bought some Bitcoin on Coinbase and you want to send it to your hardware wallet, to your Trezor, you basically just send it to the public address that is associated with your Trezor wallet or whatever kind of wallet you're using. And Bitcoin wallets are really nice. Most of them, as far as I can tell, can create an unlimited number of public addresses. So you can always use a different address to receive your Bitcoin. Now, you don't need a password or recovery seed or a hardware wallet to receive Bitcoin. People can just send it to that public address that you give them. It's okay to give someone your public address. You never give someone your private keys, but you can receive Bitcoin and it can end up there. But if you want to move that Bitcoin out of your hardware wallet, out of any wallet you have, out of your Trezor, you will need to sign a transaction. And the way you do this, you basically plug your Trezor into one of the USB ports on your computer and you follow directions. And if you're using the Trezor Model T, you can do everything on the screen itself, which is nice. You don't have to type anything into your computer. So theoretically, using a Trezor, even if your computer is infected with some sort of malware, you should still be okay. Again, this is the new frontier. This is new territory. There may be flaws or holes, security holes that we don't know about. But I'm trying to just share with you guys what I have found to be the best current solution. Again, there are a lot of risks involved, and especially if you're not super technical. I'm not super technical, so I can't go in there and really audit the code. This is why I like to use open source hardware wallets like Trezor. They're under a lot of scrutiny. People are auditing the code for me, and if there's a bug or there's some fatal exploit, people will post about it on Twitter. Trezor will take notice and they will repair the security hole in the software. So if you want to move Bitcoin, you need to sign using your Trezor, and this is basically how your Trezor uses your private keys to move Bitcoin. So one hardware wallet, you will just do one signature when you need to move your Bitcoin. And again, a reminder for people who are new to the channel, your Bitcoin is not stored on your Trezor or hardware wallet or even mobile wallet. It's stored on the actual blockchain itself. It's a transaction there. It's in the digital world and it's assigned to you. So you have a public address there that is associated with a private key. And if you know that private key, you are able to move the Bitcoin. And so the Trezor is just a way of holding your private keys in an encrypted form and having a recovery seed associated with them. So that would be single signature, just using your Trezor to move your Bitcoin. Multi-sig, multiple signatures are required to move your Bitcoin. And the two most common kinds of multi-sig are 2 out of 3 and 3 out of 5. And what this means is you will have, for example, 3 signers. And in order to make a Bitcoin transaction to perhaps move your Bitcoin off of your Trezor, or from one address to another, you will need 2 signatures, 2 out of the 3 signatures. There's a good diagram here on Unchained Capital. This is one of the services that offers multi-sig, and I'm not associated with any of these services. I'm not being paid by them or otherwise compensated. I'm also not going to tell you which multi-sig, the way I'm doing multi-sig, but I'm just going to talk about multi-sig in general and point out a couple well-known companies in the space. But this is how multi-sig works when you need to move your Bitcoin. So basically, in this case, you would have 2 hardware wallets. You'd have one Trezor here, you'd have another Trezor here. And so this would be 2 out of 3 multi-sig. And you would need both of these Trezors to sign in order to move your Bitcoin. Now, the nice thing about this is you could keep one Trezor in, let's say you keep one of your Trezors in Hawaii, somewhere you found a place to store it, and you keep another one in Paris. I'm just using random locations here. In order to move your Bitcoin, you would need to go around and collect these hardware wallets or the recovery seeds associated with them, and you would need to sign both of them before you'd be able to move your Bitcoin out of this vault. They call it a vault at Unchained Capital. Now, there's also the third signer is Unchained itself. So the neat thing about this is if you lose one of your hardware wallets or it's stolen, you can always go to Unchained. They will verify your identity and they will provide signature number 1, and then your existing Trezor number 2, which hasn't been stolen, can sign. So in order to move your Bitcoin, you can do just 2. You just need 2 out of 3 signatures. There's also 3 out of 5, as we talked about, which is more complicated to set up, but perhaps more secure. So this is how multi-sig works. And the nice thing about it is that you don't have everything sitting on a single Trezor. Under multi-sig, if you lose one of these hardware wallets or it's stolen, you can use the other 2 to move your Bitcoin. In this case, you would want to unassociate the stolen Trezor from your vault and replace it with a fresh one. If your hardware wallet, if your Trezor is ever compromised or you think it may have been stolen, you want to immediately use your private keys to move it to move your Bitcoin to a different address. Even if your Bitcoin is still appears to be sitting there on your stolen Trezor, if you've lost, if your security has been compromised, you'll want to buy a new Trezor or a new other hardware wallet. So this is how multi-sig works. You need 2 out of the 3 signatures. There are a couple other companies that do it. There's Blockstream Green wallet I've heard good things about. And also Casa has a way of doing this too. They have 2 out of 3 and 3 out of 5 multi-sig. So this is how I'm storing my Bitcoin. I'm using multi-sig. None of my hardware wallets or recovery seeds for those hardware wallets are stored at my house. I also obviously don't walk around with these. I don't keep them in my car. And I'm telling people this in public here just to let people know that if you attack me, you're not going to be able to get my Bitcoin, even if I really want to give it to you. These hardware wallets and recovery seeds are geographically distributed around the world, and there's nothing at my house or in my immediate possession. So if you came to my house and put a gun to my head and asked for my Bitcoin and asked very nicely, there's still no way that I could give it to you, even if I wanted to. And this is one of those trade-offs between security and convenience. If you have all your Bitcoin on a mobile app on your phone, it's very convenient, it's very easy to spend or send it to someone. But if you're interested in holding it basically for the rest of your life, as I am, you'll want to emphasize instead security. And so I've set up a situation here where it's extremely difficult even for me to move my Bitcoin. I plan on never moving it. I'm going to pass it on to my kids. I'm never going to sell it. But this is the trade-off you'll have to decide. If you're just playing around with Bitcoin, you want to play around with $50 worth of it, it probably doesn't make sense to buy a $50 or $100 wallet to store it. And it certainly doesn't make sense to do multi-sig. But as that Bitcoin appreciates, or if you want to become a long-term holder, it makes a lot of sense to first graduate to using a single hardware wallet like a Trezor and really guard it very carefully. And if you're not a public figure, you can hide it somewhere in your house. No one is going to, probably just don't leave it in your desk drawer or in the master bedroom. But no one is going to steal it. But then as the amount grows, or if you become more of a public figure, then it makes sense to move on to a multi-sig solution like I'm using. And as part of that, you have to decide where to store those those keys. So if you're using 3 out of 5, you have basically 5 keys. Maybe one of them is a corporation like Casa or Unchained Capital or Blockstream that will sign for you, but then you have 4 hardware keys. And you have to decide really where to distribute those, where to store them. And you also have to think about other security measures as well. And I should just end by saying you can probably guess some of the security measures I'm using if you remember that I live in Colorado and the US still has something called the Second Amendment. So I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, especially as Bitcoin has gone up in price and as my Bitcoin holdings have grown and as I understand the space more and more. I would say one thing, I'm not a Bitcoin whale. I only started buying it in 2019, so it was already quite expensive when I started buying it in 2019 and throughout 2020, even though it did fall below 5,000 briefly. But I'm not a Bitcoin whale, and there's certainly, I would say they're much better, higher profile targets than me who are much wealthier and probably have much worse security than I do as well. So this is the benefits of owning Bitcoin is you can become very wealthy. Some of the downsides is that if you're an idiot like me and you've told people that you own Bitcoin, you become a bit of a target. And even if you're not a target, you have to, if you're going to hodl your own Bitcoin and hold the private keys, you have to really think about how you're going to do this. If you hide your private keys somewhere or your hardware wallet somewhere and you get killed in a car accident or hit on the head really hard and you don't remember where they are and you can't tell anyone in your family, then you have a problem. So these are the difficulties with self-custody, but I still think for large amounts of Bitcoin, whatever that means for you relative to your net worth, that hardware wallets make a lot of sense. And then the ultimate solution as it exists in the present state of the Bitcoin ecosystem really is a multi-sig solution where you're doing 2 out of 3 multi-sig or 3 out of 5 multi-sig. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.